today is, so Chief of Staff of the Army, as I know you guys probably already, and passed it down to the Corps, and it came down to the Brigade. So we were the first ones to do the Foundation Day in 1st Army. And the battalion commander purposely left it up to the battalions to come up with their plans to execute. And then we're going to take everybody's plans. We're going to send all that back up through Div East and before it becomes a solidified requirement. Colonel Larkwood had been, he wanted to, and we've been trying to figure out a time for me to give you this presentation before I left. It just happened. This came down the pipe a couple of weeks ago, and it was fitting to use this today. We had a plan, COVID hit, we couldn't get the brigade together and what have you. So, this is normally a 3-hour presentation that I give to various different organizations and what have you. But don't worry, I'm not keeping you for 3 hours. I'm going to try to cram this all down to about 1.5 hours tops with it. But before we get started, though, I need somebody that can write good. I don't write good. I write hard. Somebody can write. You got a volunteer. I can sit here as long as y'all want to.
Let's get it over with, already.
I hear you.
Well, I know how to write. That's how I write good.
All right, so before I get started, we're going to make 2 lists here, and then we're going to come back to this list later. So on one side, we'll make a list, and we'll make a list on the other side. So the first list we're going to make is, what are some of the indicators that somebody might be wanting to commit suicide or off themselves? All right, there we go.
Personnel giving away their belongings.
All right, give away their belongings. Surprisingly, that has been the first one all 5 sessions.
Let's say relationship problems.
Relationship problems.
Infidelity.
All right.
Work ethic going down.
Huh?
Their work ethic.
All right. Change in performance, basically, right? Change in performance. Yes.
Money issues, sir?
Money, finance issues. Oh. And just because we reach them, don't mean you have to write some. Hang on, let me catch up. I got you. Finance issues.
Isolation. Personnel isolate themselves from each other.
Isolation. What else?
Tragedy.
Huh?
Tragedy.
Tragedy. Or tragic event. You're talking about like a tragic
Roger, that's not right.
tragedy or tragic event. Anything else? Yes.
Not planning for the future.
Huh?
Not planning for the future.
Not planning for the future. Is that what you said? Okay, yeah. All right. Anything else we want to add to it?
Pending courts martial or criminal trial.
Any legal action?
Oh, okay. All right, anything else we want to add? Yes.
TBI information.
Okay.
I was thinking that,
And do you think somebody that has TBI and PTSD is that for suicide?
Some cases.
yeah,
Think it's suicide tendency? No question I ask in here has a right or wrong answer. Let's put that in front.
Maybe you categorize that as medical issues.
So you
Different type of medical issues. So it could be just a big umbrella, like if you find out bad information, you got cancer, or all kinds of stuff like that.
All right, we're running out of space on that list. All right, let's go to the other list. All right, what are some of the, he writes big, he knows I'm blind. Let's go to the, now, what are some of the concerns that people have in getting help, like mental health and what have you?
Stigma.
Huh?
Stigma.
What kind of stigma?
Well, you think that someone's going to think differently of you.
All right.
Weakness.
Perception. Tell me perception. Okay. What do you got?
Your job.
Job jeopardy, job performance, job jeopardy, jeopardize, job or position.
It's going to affect your career down the road.
Affect the career.
Sign of weakness.
Sign of weakness. Did y'all get all the notes from the last session?
You were security clearance?
Security clearance. But you guys are like getting everybody else's combined lists.
They cause family issues.
Say family insurance,
Family
you
constraints.
throw on like EFFP, and it goes somewhere more.
EFMP, just write EFMP on.
I was saying may cause family issues.
Oh,
So somebody's going through.
okay, I write it. EFMP, right. What card say will follow you? Anything else we want to add?
No support.
Huh?
No support.
No support? Okay, no support.
Time needed to treat. Time needed to treat.
Oh, time or treatment.
Deployability.
Deployability, that's another one, that's a big one. Deployability. Now, we can cut this list off whenever you want, buddy, or we can fill it up. Nothing's right or wrong. We want to add anything else?
No time for work.
Work burden on their families.
Burden? Burden on family. Anything else we want to add? Okay. I appreciate it. We're going to put this list away and then we'll come back and do it later. All right. So I'm going to start this off with a video, as we always do in a good old Army classroom briefing. But let me tell you a little bit about this video. This video was recorded in 2000, I can't remember the year, 14, 15, no, I mean 15 or 16, one of those 2 years. And what happened, this is an interview of me and my wife. And they came out to our house, they turned our house into a recording studio. They emptied out the dining room. They set it up like a studio, put all the lights and screens and reflectors and all that stuff in there. They had a makeup artist put stuff on my head so it wouldn't shine in the camera. In the living room, they had all the monitors and the producer and all them people were in there. But in this video, though, is the first time that I told my story publicly. Before this video was made, I never would have told anybody in this room, not one of you, that I was getting help, taking medicines, and I tried to kill myself. Now, when they did the video interview, though, they had a lady in there in the room with me, and she was going to ask me questions, and she asked one question. I started talking, and I started talking, and I started talking, and I kept talking, and I kept talking. 3 hours later, I kind of run out of stuff to talk about. And I said, "Is there anything else you want to know?" The lady looked over at the producer like, he said, "No, we got plenty. We'll wrap it up right there." So they took this 3 8+ hour interview, if you can call it that, me talking, and they and cut it down to 10 minutes. So they focused on one of many internal battles that I was fighting within myself. One of many. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit on there. I'll give you the Paul Harvey, the rest, those that are old enough to know Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. And but I'll tell you the background and the rest of the story, and then we'll get on with the presentation. I'll turn it off. So, on average, every other night, we do air assaults to take your pick in Iraq to do, whether it's raids, snatch missions, take your pick. And Colonel Ball, being an old country boy, being from Nacogdoches, Texas, and we all refer to each other as boys. Everything he said, yeah, the Baker boys did this, and the Baker boys, and we're flying the Baker boys up here, and the Baker boys are awesome. And that's how we became known as the Baker boys from then on. Well, we were averaging 5 to 7 firefights a day, 7 days a week. And if you look at photos of the Baker boys, to include myself, I'd say we probably all aged about 10 years. We never left the wire without each other. And so I got to know just about everything about him, and he knew everything about me. Me and Sergeant Baum were having our last cigar before we went to Iraq. And I remember telling him, or asking him, if he thought we'd be lucky enough to bring all our boys home. And I remember Sergeant Baum's reply was, "We've got you for a first sergeant. It's in the back." I never would have dreamed that he would be one of them. That I wouldn't bring back. Louis was the one that got the drop on us before we got him. And so, being I was outdone by him, and he took what I always called my right hand located on the left side of my body, Sergeant Baum, it was just so freaking personal. Every night I was grabbing a squad and going out. I remember the first time we found Louis's house, there was about, 8 or 10 guys sleeping in the yard. They all sleep outside during the summer in Iraq. I wanted so bad to try to find the guy that fit the description and just cut his throat right there. But as soon as we got in a fight, or one of these guys woke up, me and Pursley is exposed in here. It shows though that my personal vendetta, I put more lives at risk. I didn't lose any more lives over it, thank God. But I told you Hubert Picard got embedded to us that same day that Sergeant Baum got killed. And Hubert Picard didn't go out with us. Well, he wrote a story about it. And that's what he called it, was the 10-day manhunt for Louis. And that's how that became known. We got Louis.
You can't share these experiences with people who don't know nothing about war zone. They don't want to hear about that. They are scary. For them, this is the dark side and they want to see the sky blue or pink. Second, they can't understand what you say, because for them, anything has to be human, anything has to be respectful, anything has to be beautiful. They wish the war to be clean. The war can't be clean, otherwise it wouldn't be a war. And the problem the army has to face, and soldiers have to face when they come back, is that they have in front of them people who are just simply asking them, did you kill somebody there? Wow, did you kill somebody there? Nobody can understand.
I had a chance to reflect back to Iraq and Afghanistan and things that I'd done that now I'm questioning myself on why I did them. And what I could have done to bring back all the guys that I wasn't able to bring back. And I started getting bitter. And I got bitter at the world, myself, God. I needed to make something look like an accident. And it just happens El Paso has a really windy road that comes down out of the mountains that's perfect for accidents. And there's one sharp bend with some picnic tables there right in that bend, and on the ends of those bends is rock walls with a roof covering the picnic tables. And so the plan was that I would go up to the top, make that motorcycle go as fast as it could, and then make it look like I missed a turn and plow on the side of one of those walls. But however, somebody decided they want to park a car there, and it's an awesome scenery there. You can look out over Juarez, Mexico, back up to the top and wait for these people to leave. While I'm there, my phone rang. And it's Teresa. She talked me down off that mountain.
He was a very angry person, and it seemed like he couldn't see the good in people. He couldn't see the good in himself.
I had this persona that I was invincible, that I could endure anything, that nothing would affect me. And I guess the self-pride was part of what got me to where I didn't want anybody to know about it. But Teresa got me to understand that I could hide behind it and spend the rest of my life bitter and disgruntled. We had a talk one night, and she got me to understand that I could talk about it, and how many lives could I touch if I did talk about it.
For him to be vulnerable and admit that he needed help meant that he was a failure to him in his eyes. And I tried to make him understand that you're not a failure. You'd be a failure if you didn't get help.
A lot of times we'll have an issue and we try to deal with it ourselves. And sometimes those issues become monsters. If a leader doesn't know his soldiers, he can't pick up on those signs. that they're having issues. I've had soldiers come up to me later and thank me for showing them that it's okay to get help. It's okay to ask for help. Because we have injuries, even if they're not injuries you can see, it's okay.
So now that I've got you all bummed out and sucked all the life out of you, we'll try to get through this. So I'm going to give you kind of the backstory on what they picked in here, on why that was a tragic event for me. Now, and when we were in Iraq, our battalion got attached to the meth over down in the Marines down in Campbell. Our company got sent to Carmel, Iraq. The company commander was Captain Nylander at the time, Colonel Nylander that just left here. And then ended up, our voter sergeant that we had out there with us was First Sergeant Smith, was out there during this time too. And we had to fight our way into Carmel. The Al-Qaeda had just killed all the Iraqi policemen, locked their heads off and hung them on the minaret outside of that was right at the northeast corner of the IP station. And so when we got in there, we had to take over the IP station, but not only did we have to take over the IP station, we got to build a defense. Not only did we build a defense, but thank God Al-Qaeda liked to sleep. Because almost when I said we were averaging 5 to 7 firefights a day, it was like clockwork. They wake up, they say the prayer, they would shoot at us, then they would say the prayer, and they'd go to bed. We went to work, filling sandbags, building walls, towers. Sun would come up, they'd say the prayer, they'd shoot at us, they'd say the prayer, they'd go back to bed, we went back to work. That all by itself will take a toll. But in Iraq, in Carmel was a really unique situation that we were facing in there. So when they stood the brigade, the 4th Brigade up there in Alaska, my first job when the brigade stood up was to work with all our designated marksmen and our sniper teams across the brigade. I was the senior sniper within the brigade. And when we got into Carmel, even though I was a first sergeant, just a unique situation that we were in there, I did a lot of sniper work in there. So I kind of had brought in 3 snipers to get rid of the Carmel sniper, as they call them. When Colonel Kevin, our battalion commander, found out about it, he came and paid us a visit out there at the IP station in Carmel. And he goes, "Hey, Bush, I need to talk to you." He said, "We just found out that Al-Qaeda's brought 3 snipers in here to get rid of the Carmel sniper." Okay. I was pretty confident. 2 of them were not snipers. They were just marksmen. Within weeks, I killed both of those 2. Louis, however, he was good. Y'all ever anybody read the book Enemy at the Gates or saw the movie? It almost became just almost like Enemy at the Gates. I hunted that guy down. I wanted him back. He had shot 2 of my guys. Sergeant Levy got shot through the leg, severed his artery there. He didn't die, but he almost died. Another guy that he ended up shot through the throat. The guy talks funny now. He didn't die. We had him vacuum out. He's still alive. That's kind of a unique story why he's alive too. It's a testament of how we train. But when we got the IP, or the Iraqi policemen to start coming back to the police station, we moved the company headquarters out of the Iraqi police station to the other side of Karma to OP3. We had one platoon out there, 2 platoons at the IP station. Then we kind of flipped it. We left one platoon at the IP station, moved the other platoon in the company headquarters over to OP3. When we moved over there, though, then they started attacking OP3. And they harassed us every morning. They shoot at us. We couldn't see where they were shooting from. So Colonel, the captain at the time, Nylander, he had just left to go on leave the night or 2 nights before. But I got pissed off. So I grabbed up the squad. I grabbed Sergeant Percy's squad. And we're going to go out to the neighborhood outside the wire. And we're going to find where they're shooting at us from. Because next time they do that, we're going to just unload it. We walk around to the neighborhood. And of course, nobody, just typical. Nobody's heard any gunshots. Nobody's seen anybody with weapons. Nobody knows anything that's going on. We walk by a garage. We stopped, talked to the mechanics. Of course, they hadn't seen anything. Well, when we stopped, Sergeant Varner was the team leader for the lead team, and there was a wall, got behind the wall along the road and to set up security. And Varner called on the radio, hey, we've got piles of grass up here. I think that's where they're shooting from. Probably about from here to the front door of the chapel, where I was at. So I walk over to Sergeant Varner, and I want to see what Al-Qaeda is looking at back at OP. So I squat down like this, and I'm looking back. And one round was fired, and the dirt kicked up from between my feet. The bullet struck the ground right between my feet. Now let me go back in time just a little bit, and then we'll come back to that point. We did a hasty patrol. It wasn't planned. It wasn't resourced. I grabbed a squad and we ran out of the wire and ran to the center of the guns. So Percy comes into the top and tells me, hey, first of all, I got all the guys ready to go. So I throw my kit on and I walk outside, and Sergeant Baum was standing out there. Now, Sergeant Baum was going on leave that night. The reason he was going on leave that night was his wife was pregnant and she was overdue. And the doctor said that they're going to do induced labor on this date. So we're sending Baum home so he can see the birth of his first child. Now, parts of this story, even though I've told this, I've did this hundreds of times, some of it's still kind of difficult to get this. Bear with me. I go out there, and Sergeant Baum, he's standing out there with all his kit. I said, what are you doing? He said, go out. Dude, you're going on leave tonight. Okay. I said, dude, go get your stuff ready. It's ready. But then go relax. And he said, first, when have you ever got out of the wire without me? All right, let's go. And so I let him go. Now, let's get back to that bullet that hit the ground. Everybody gets behind cover. Everybody's trying to figure out where that one round was fired from. And then the call comes over the radio that Doc's down. Now, there was 2 medics out there, Doc Baum and Doc Shohan. Doc Shohan was 2nd platoon medic, and Sergeant Minzy was a platoon sergeant sitting out there with us. Doc Baum was a company medic. He was also my spotter, the best spotter I've ever had. So me and Baum were always together. Never were we apart. One, just being a company medic and the platoon sergeant, as Doc can attest to, just that means that we're together quite a bit. But we spent countless hours, just me and him in high sights, sitting in the truck with Fingers, the driver. O'Connor's his name. I call it Fingers, that's another story. But we spent hours in the truck on picket lines, keeping the gap open, at the casualty collection and EPW collection points. I can guarantee you there was nothing about me that Sergeant Baum did not know. And I'm going to guess there wasn't much about him that I didn't know. And when we did the bullet trace, well, Well, let me back up, let me finish that part, and I'll get to the bullet trace. I look over to my left, because Dr. Baum was always on my left side, because my right ear is deaf. I look over to my left, and Sergeant Barner's there. I say, hey, where's Dr. Baum? He goes, he didn't come up to us. In my mind, I had Sergeant, or he was specialist at the time, but Doc Chauhan is the one that I thought was on the ground. I run back to the garage to get Baum so we can go find Chauhan. And when I get back to the garage, Doc Baum is laying on the ground. Chauhan is running over there at the same time I'm running. We dragged him behind cover, and the bullet that went right through his throat, side to side. Doc Chauhan started working and trying to get breath in him, and I started working on trying to get a heartbeat in him. We got a heartbeat in him. We got the medevac bird, and he ended up dying right to Campbell. Now, why is that significant? On top of all that I just told you about, we did a bullet trace on that bullet, where it struck, where Sergeant Baum was at. And as you continue that line, there was a gap in the reed grass on the other side of the road. And if you look to that gap, you can see what we call the chicken coop. There's a house with 3 chickens in there. We would find out later that the spotter, Louis spotter, stayed at the chicken house. He also kept the dragon off at the chicken house with him, so that way it was separated from Louis if we were to find Louis. I have a picture of me and Louis together when we were trying to find him. It's a whole other story, but I've got a picture of the line with me and him together because I had to get a picture of him to verify it's him. But we did not find a rifle in the house. So we gave everything to him. On the target of opportunity, just been on patrol, just left the wire, and they're out there walking and wandering around the neighborhood. Louis moves from his house over to the chicken house, gets the rifle, and just happens we stop in the one place that he can see us. Just happens Doc Baum is taking a knee where he thought was behind cover, but straight in line with that gap. Now, if I was Louis, the guy that's sort of in the center of that patrol and walking around talking to people, probably the guy that I would shoot. Since the bullet hit the ground right between my feet, I have no doubt that bullet was meant for me. And what I think, I don't know this for a fact, but what I think is that Louis made the common error that most snipers make, and they burn through to the target. In other words, when he's looking through his optic, he gets focused on the target, and the obstacles in between, tree limbs and grass and all that stuff, you don't even see in your optic because you're fixated on the target. And then when you fire the round, the bullet gets deflected on the obstacle in between. I think that Louis was fixated on me, and Doc Baum just happened to get in the way. The bullet passed through his throat and deflected and hit the ground underneath me instead of him. Why is that significant? Because the internal fight that I had was survival guilt. Because when you compare me and Baum, my goal in the Army was to be an airborne first sergeant. That's all I wanted to be, a first sergeant of an airborne company. That's what I wanted to be. And I was that. Everything after that's free chicken. My kids were oldest in high school and the other 2 in junior high. So they're old enough to have lasting memories of their dad. Sergeant Baum's daughter would never know her dad. He had a promising career. He was an outstanding NCO. And out of all of the lives that 425 lost in Iraq, Sergeant Baum affected the entire brigade more so than anybody else. Promising young man. I had met the goals that I wanted in life. He was still aspiring to meet his goals. So the survivor guilt was, why him? Why did he have to get in the way of that stupid bullet? And why couldn't it have been me? That was one. The other one is, that's the first time I had ever moved, even though it was from here to there, the first time I had ever got up without grabbing him and taking him with me. That weighed heavy. And then the fact that we were always together. So not that Sergeant Bond was any more significant or insignificant than any other soldier that we lost out there. It just hurt me worse for those reasons. Now, I won't bore you with all the war stories and stuff of the other deployments. But there's some other stuff that happened to me. Some stuff I'm not proud of, and some stuff that I really wish I'd have made a different decision. But 2 deployments after that deployment, though, I was in Afghanistan. I was the embedded training team leader for the Afghan border police up in Paktika. We were out doing a patrol up in the Guy Mountains. And a lot of that was slate rock, real brittle, breaks real easy. We're walking on the edge of a slope. The slate rock gives way. I fall, slide off the cliff, land at the bottom, and a rock follows me and smashes me on the head. Thank God I had ACH on because I had to get a new ACH, not be plumb out. I don't know how long I was out. I know long enough, though, for Satar and the border police to come down and pick me up and carry me back up to the top. I had a really bad headache after that, but after a while, the headache kind of went away, come and go. We didn't know a lot about brain injuries back at that time. That happened towards the end of that deployment. And I had been selected for the Sergeant Major Academy, and when I redeployed from that deployment 2 weeks later, I'm headed south to El Paso to go to Sergeant Major Academy. When I get back from that deployment, though, then I find out that I have a 20-year marriage that just went down the drain. Also, thanks to the power of attorney, some credit cards got put in my name and never got paid. I had prided myself that I'd never paid a late bill in my life. I had a perfect credit score. On my way down to El Paso, and also I had my dream house that I wanted to retire in and die in. I had to get rid of it. And I'd take a short sale on that and take it right straight up the nose. Now I'm on my way down to El Paso. I couldn't finance a pencil if I wanted to. So all that just happened. And I've still got that what people would call PTSD issues going on from previous experiences. Now I'm down there in El Paso on my little travel trailer, and I park it in the Fort Bliss campground. And now I'm sitting in there, I'm by myself. First time I'm not charging nobody. I'm not coming back, getting ready for the next deployment. Nobody's in charge of me. I have these stupid headaches. I mean, those headaches would get so bad I wouldn't be able to move my eyeballs. I mean, I could not move. It just hurts so bad. So what do I start doing? Sitting there alone, and an idle brain is a very bad thing. I start thinking about all those transgressions that I had, about all the problems that was going on in my stupid world, and these stupid headaches. And I found out Jim Beam is a heck of a doctor. Jim Beam would make it go away, and I'd drink till I passed out, and then I wake up and wouldn't have a headache. So, during that time, though, I had become bitter. I hated everybody. I hated myself, and I hated everybody else. If you meet somebody that graduated from class 61 from the Sergeant Major Academy, we were a fairly small class, and ask them if they know Tom Campbell, and they'll say, oh yeah, I know that. And they will not have anything good to say about it. During this time, what friends I had run off. Some of those friends still won't talk to me today. And one actually got me to get help. So I went to get help. Before I got to the point of suicide, I'd already went to get help. And what drove me there was, I shared this story. Please, nobody take offense to the story I'm about to tell you. Remember, I'm a veteran than Tom Campbell. We're sitting in class, and in the classrooms at Sergeant Major Academy, the desks are in these big horseshoes. And on one side of the horseshoe over here is what I call the retard side of the class in our small group. There's a tanker, me, combat engineer, an artilleryman, a Calf Scout, the dumb side of the classroom. On the back of the classroom, what I call the neutral side. There's an aviator, an MP, a logistician, a foreign exchange student. They were just happy to be there. On the other side of the room is what I call the nerd side of the room, the intelligent side. A legal person, a UAV operator, an intel analyst, a satellite controller, whatever the heck that is. I used to make fun of them. I said, "Don't those things are thinking self-pilot, they just kind of orbit around the Earth. What the heck do you do down here on Earth to control that thing?" So that was the intelligence side of the room. Now, everybody in there thinks I'm a butt. I was. And they rightly thought that about me. And we're talking about resiliency one day. And I didn't ever say too much in class. About the only thing I say in class is, "You're retarded, go screw yourself, shut up, leave me alone." That's about the only thing I'll say in class. Well, we're talking about resiliency, and now don't take any offense to this. And remember, this is at the height of the surge. On the retarded side of the classroom, everybody had multiple deployments. The neutral side of the classroom had multiple deployments. The nerd side of the classroom had no deployments. Now, rightly so. UAV operator spent his entire time doing missions in Afghanistan while he was sitting down in Florida. Intel analyst was up at the Pentagon briefing all the intel that was being fed back. So, I mean, rightly so, why they did it. But remember, Tom Campbell was an angry person at the time. So one of the nerds raised their hand and said, "Well, if a soldier kills the enemy, you got to pull that soldier out of the fight. You got to sit him down and make sure that they understand that it's not their fault. They're just doing their job." And I was, what the hell? And then one of the other nerds spoke up and said, "Well, if you're losing, if you're on a patrol and a soldier gets killed, you got to stop that mission, pull them all in, build the resiliency back up. Otherwise, they won't be focused on the mission at hand. They'll be having their mind on other stuff, and then there'll be other bad stuff will happen." I am what? And so Sergeant Major Gore, who's one of them weird, combo guys. Now, Sergeant Major Gore, phenomenal Sergeant Major, and a phenomenal person. We became very good friends after this. But he was, again, one of those weird things. He had never left the continental United States because there was no need. His job was here. So Gore, he said, "Hey, Campbell, you got something to say?" "Oh, yeah, I got something to say." I said, "You guys are retarded. If a soldier kills the enemy, good for him. You pat him on the back, tell him good job, because it's either he kills the enemy or the enemy kills him or one of his buddies. But he don't pull him out of the fight. If you lose a soldier, the mission doesn't stop. You evac him out and you continue on whatever that mission is, but probably that mission is going to be even more successful, if nothing else, out of respect to the brothers which is lost. But I tell you what, if y'all want to know what it's like to go over there and deploy, how about you get off your lazy ass and you go out there and deploy? Because of you lazy suckers is why I have to deploy back to back to back. And so one of them said, "Well, have you ever killed anybody?" That's when I lost him. I said, "I think it's irrelevant to this conversation, but I tell you what, screw all of you, screw you too," and I got up and I walked out of the classroom. Left my books on the table. Went back to the trailer house and take a guess what I started doing. Me and Jim Beam had a little talk about it. Then the commandant calls me. Tells me I have an appointment, mental health. I think it's 14:30. And when you get done, you come see me. I said, "Boy, well, I guess I'm supposed to be the first person in the history of some Major Academy to get kicked out without really due to academics." So I go to mental health. I've got a chip on my shoulder, because now I got to prove that I don't have PTSD. And in my mind, I don't have PTSD. And I go in and talk to the little old lady in tennis shoes, and bless her heart, if I ever met that lady again, I'd get on my knee and apologize to her. I made such a spectacle of myself that she refused to talk to me. She left the room and would not go in the same room with me because she feared for her health. When they get done with me, I go back to the academy, I go and see the commandant. Now, if I was him, I would hand him my butt. Surprisingly, he didn't. I knocked on his door, he tells me to sit down. He said, you know why I went to get help? Yeah, right. I said, see, prove I got PTSD. I told him I went to go and the rest of the class go screw yourself. This is now that I wasn't professional. He looked at he had my ERB on this. He goes, out of these deployments, how many NCOs have you forced to get help? Now, he was going with a completely different direction with this than what triggered in my head. But it triggered a thought in my head. From the time I was a mid-grade leader on, I always preach to my junior leaders to lead by example. If you have to talk to lead, you ain't worth a crap. I don't need you. If you can lead by your own actions and you can live what you preach, you're an excellent leader, and I need you. And it triggered in my head that, you know what, idiot, you've been showing the exact same signs you've been looking for in your men in the past however many years it was. So, I'll give you that. So Persley, I talked about Persley, that he was a squad leader. That squad we took out there when some mom got killed. I drug Persley out to my truck, literally. Drug him out to my truck. Pushed him into my truck. Shut the door, locked it. He'd unlock it, I'd lock it, he'd unlock it, I'd lock it until I could get in this thing and crank it up and drive off. I drove him down to mental health. I'd already arranged for somebody to meet us down there. I drug him, literally, drug him out of that truck like a school kid, kicking and screaming into that place. Persley hated me for weeks after that. After that, though, he ended up becoming a drill sergeant. And then he got out of the Army after that. And we stayed in contact, as I do with most of those guys from Baker Company. And every time, Persley now does a lot of veteran support organization stuff and for wounded warriors. And he just rode the bicycle across the country with a bunch of other veterans. But every time we talk, though, Persley always, before we hang up, Persley always thanks me for dragging him down there and kicking and screaming. So with that in the back of my head, I said, you know what, you need to give us an honest effort. You forced other people to do it, you need to do it. So I go down to mental health and I give it an effort. The next psychiatrist that they hooked me up with is a male, and he's about that tall and about that big wide, and looked meaner than a bag full of rattlesnakes. Probably a reason why they gave it to me, or gave me to him. I had a couple sessions with him, and then he left, and then I had to get a new psychiatrist and another little lady in tennis shoes. Her name was Miss Pierce. Miss Pierce was good. She would drag stuff out of you that you didn't know you had in there. And she picked up on the TBI. And at this time, not only was I very angry and bitter, I couldn't talk. I mean, I could talk, but I'll forget a word. I mean, I'll do it while I'm talking to you now. I'll forget a simple word, and then I'll keep thinking about what that word is, and then I'll forget what I'm talking about, and then I get pissed off, and I'll tell you, go screw yourself. My short-term memory really sucked. Horrible. And so Miss Pierce had picked up on the TBI and asked if I'd ever been screaming. I don't know if got a TBI. I mean, I've been in a few explosions. Fell off a cliff, rocked me on the head. So she sent me down to the TBI clinic there at Fort Bliss, and they did an MRI and all that good stuff. And there's a bruise on the left front lobe. I had a big bruise on my brain. And then inside that bruise, about a little bit bigger than a quarter, I've got dead tissue. The bruise will heal itself over time. It's healed itself by now. So I'm better than I was. But the dead tissue is dead tissue. So I'm as good as I'm going to get. It'll never grow back. What was giving me those migraines was when I sparked those damaged neuropaths up, that's what was triggering those extreme migraine headaches that I was having. Now, they gave me some medicine, pills, and all that good stuff, and I had never taken pills in my life, and by God, I ain't going to start now. I've made it this long that I don't need stuff now. And I didn't take it. I took it once, made me feel kind of loopy, and I ain't doing this stuff no more. kids were estranged, they wouldn't talk to Dad. I didn't have them to talk to. By myself, and my mind is going in that direction, and Dr. Jim Beam is medicated. The only thing I had going left in my life was the Army. Now I'm retarded. The doctor just confirmed it. Brain ain't working good. They're not going to let me be a sergeant major if I ain't got a brain that works. They're not going to let me deploy again because the brain don't work. What do I have left in life? So that's when I decided, screw it. I'll just end this. It's time to end this stuff right here. So I started formulating my plan. Nobody knew that I had a plan but me. I had a plan that I had recon and I had a timestamp on it. Nobody knew that about me. So when it comes, now I had met Teresa through her dad. I met her dad down at the VFW during one of my vendors, and he was an old retired NCO. He was a little disgruntled himself. Otherwise, they were talking and had something in common. Teresa had just ended a volatile marriage and had moved down to El Paso to take care of her dad because his health was going south quick. And somehow, and there's a story on how we got together. Those of you that went to the comedy show with Fort Bliss heard the story how we got together, so I ain't going to repeat it here. But somehow, though, Teresa kept talking to me. Even though I was bitter and I hated the world, she kept talking to me. But she didn't know I had a plan either. So when it's time for execution, and like I said in the video, the plan was to have a motorcycle wreck. And when I was flying that, I had my motorcycle screaming down Trans Mountain. I went all the way up to the top, turned around up at the Tom Hayes unit, and I'm heading down just as fast as that motorcycle would go. And when I come around the last bend where I see the picnic tables, between the trip up and down, somebody parked a car at the end of the picnic table or the rock wall where I was going to smash the bike into, and they were sitting in their car. In my mind, I can picture taking them out. With my luck, I'd get ejected off the mountain, and then I'd probably break my neck, and then I'd be a paraplegic, and then I wouldn't be able to off myself, and then someone would have to change my diet and feed me through a tube the rest of my life. The suicides that I have seen, out of attempt, and all the suicide survivors that I've talked to, nobody has ever given anything away. I do not know where that comes from, and I don't have an answer for it. Relationship problems, probably just about everybody in here has had a relationship problem. Is that an indicator for suicide by itself?
Not by itself.
Changes in performance. Now, I was on the commandant's list when I graduated Sergeant Major Academy. Not to toot my horn, but I did my work. I performed in the top 20% of that class, of class 61. Who would have picked up changes in performance?
Nobody, especially since you're in a school environment. Like, they didn't see your performance before, they just saw what they were getting. You're a solid performer, you're a senior leader in the Army, doing what senior leaders do. Like, you're not going to be sitting, moping around and go, oh, I don't care about my schoolwork. That's just not how we act as seniors in the Army, no matter how old we are, no matter where our positions are.
How would I compare it to somebody that just PCS'd into the organization?
It's the same. It's the same because you don't know them yet.
And first impressions are lasting impressions. finance issues. Who do you think knew that I had finance issues?
Not so.
Not a soul. But the bank knew. Isolation. Who would have picked up on isolation?
I don't even
Probably
know
no.
this.
Well, no one, because most of the song they just stay in trailers when they get out there in campus, so they go back to the village.
Nobody knew me when I liked people. I hated everybody. I didn't hang out with them because I hated them. I hang out myself too. A tragic event. Probably about most everybody in this room has had a tragic event of some sort or another that weighed heavily on our minds. Who would have picked up on that in my story?
Honestly, I believe that whenever you exploded in the classroom, everybody in that classroom would have. They could have easily taken, as soon as you said you have no idea, get the hell out of here, I want to see it, whatever. I think that was a D sign.
And I think somebody did.
No, sounds like.
I'm going to guess Sergeant Major Gore. Somebody told the commandant that I was acting like a butt. Poor future planning. Now, earlier when I said I did, now I was suicidal before I knew I was suicidal. Sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? What I mean by that is I did not care if I died or not. I did some really stupid stuff. Like ride that motorcycle 100 plus miles an hour, weaving through cars that were in the I-10 parking lot in the evening. Everybody knows that I-10, all the traffic stops for some reason in the evening. I go shoot in between cars at over 100 miles an hour. I didn't care if I died or not. I love rock climbing. I go out to Waco Tanks, right there in the Tom Hayes unit, and rock climb. Never had an anchor, never tied in. I didn't care if I fell off that cliff and died. I didn't care about me, nor did I care about you. You as being the people around. But who would have picked up on that? Pending legal actions, that is an indicator. I didn't have any legal actions at the time, but why would that be an indicator?
Somebody like you got nothing else to lose.
You probably don't think you have anything else to lose. And even though it wasn't legal action, my perception was my career's done. Not by legal action, but that's the feeling I had. What do I have to live for? TBI, PTSD, it can turn into suicide if it's not treated. I'll tell you that for a fact. And medical issues kind of goes in hand, but kind of the same point of medical issues that's going to put me out of the Army. What do I got left? All right, let's talk real quick about concern. Well, let me back up just a second. I gotta look at my cheat sheet, make sure I don't get off track. I'm going blind too. Oh yes. So how do we pick up? How do we spot these indicators? Get to know people. How?
Conversations.
We've got to have personal relationships with our peers and our subordinates. Not just professional, we have to have personal relationships with our peers and our subordinates. Which means you'll have one with your superior because he needs to have a personal relationship with his subordinate. How do we do this? There's a lot of leaders out there that can't do that. They cannot build a personal relationship with their subordinates. And I find that kind of peculiar, and I started looking at the leaders that have a hard time being able to have personal relationships. More than likely, It was a borderline substantial leader. Borderline incompetent leader. That could not. Because some leaders think that if I have a personal relationship, that's going to undermine my competency, my authority. Because what do you have to do to have that personal relationship? What do you as a leader, or not even a leader, as a people, what do you have to have that personal relationship?
It's like vulnerability.
Huh?
It's like vulnerability.
Transparency. That you're not invincible. What else?
Empathy.
What's empathy?
I guess, in quick definition is taking and understanding a person's situation.
Let me explain real quick. The difference between empathy and sympathy. I cannot remember where I saw it. A guy's in the hole. Sympathy is, oh, man, how'd you get down? That really sucks. Here's your sandwich, here's your bottle of water, man. I hope you get out of it. That's empathy. Empathy is getting a rope or ladder, climbing down in that hole with the dude, and let's see how we can get out of this hole. That's empathy. And you're right. You got to have empathy. You also got to be approachable. Oh, Lord. You got to be approachable. Now, what is a personal relationship? Professional means we're talking about work. These are our tasks, we've got to get them done. Personal is when you sit down and you talk, unwork related. And we know each other personally we know our families. We know likes and dislikes. We know what their hobbies are. We can meet each other in the hallway and we can talk about fishing. We can talk about how fast a car went down the track. Motorcycles. Working on the house. You name it. But when you get to that point, now you're building that personal relationship. And it doesn't mean we cross the line of fraternization. There's policies against that. But we have that personal relationship that we really understand and know each other well. Now, before we get into concerns of it. Now, let's say you do pick up indicators. Whether it's a peer, supporter, I don't care who it is. Leader, I don't care. What do?
Talk to them about it.
How do you approach it?
Delicately.
Everybody's different, but I believe being pretty upfront about it and asking them, hey, you have a plan, or you planning to do something, or think you alone.
You're exactly right. It's personality based. Being up front and blunt and direct is normally the way to do it. But it's always based off personality. There's no right or wrong answer to that question, but it's a very tricky question. But once you engage, you become the intervention. I will tell you that the best thing that you can do is shut your mouth and open your ears. Listen. Now, once you become the intervener, you own that problem until it's not a problem for them. Not when you get them to get help. The worst thing you can do is, hey, I understand, let's get you some help. You get them to help and you walk away. That's the worst thing you can do. You own that problem during their help, treatment, or whatever it is. You own that problem with them until it is not a problem for them. I'll give you an example. This just happened recently. It's in our brigade. I was in Colonel Larkowitz's office, and my phone rang, and I answered the phone, and it was a wife. one of our NCO's wife. And I could hear the NCO in the background, not having a good time. And he's mumbling, why you kill me? You killed me. It's your fault that I'm gone. I'm leaving this world. And I could tell he was on the sauce, just from the moment. She called me because I had just talked to him the day prior, the evening prior. He had some questions about his marketplace had opened up. He had some questions on what he should look for as far as assignment coming out of the 188 brigade. So when she looked at his phone, my number happened to be the first one on there that she saw, and she called me. Now, I didn't want to wait. I could have called the battalion sergeant major or team HRC. I could have called the battalion chain of command, but I wanted to intervene now. So I told Colonel, okay, sir, I got to go. That's one of the wives we have an NCO crisis, so I can go somewhere. So I go over to the house, and I go in there, sure enough. He had been on the sauce all night long, and I slept, hadn't eaten nothing but the thought. I tried to get him to read, I tried to reason with him, get him to talk legibly. When I finally got him to talk legibly, I just sat there and I just listened to him. Now I got to get him to the ER to get help. He's under the sauce. So we get to the ER, they put him in the back room because I took him, he's got to have an escort with him up there. Now, again, I could have called Sergeant Major or his team NCOIC, but because I intervened, I own that problem. I still own that problem right now. I sat in there all night with him till he sobered up. Then they brought the psychiatrist in and talked to him. When the psychiatrist had determined if there was a safe place that he could go, then he didn't see fit to enroll him and take him up to the 3rd floor. I took him home with me, and I was going to put him in the guest room and put him to bed. When we got to the house, we sat out on the porch, and for probably about 3 or 4 hours. I bet you I said 6 things in those 3 or 4 hours. I just sat there and just listened. And let him unload. Another thing that you don't want to do is, even if you, and in this case, what he was going through, I had experienced the exact same thing. Ineffective indeed. And I could have told him, hey man, I know exactly what you're going through. I went through it back then, and this is what I did. Don't do that. Don't make it about you. Eventually, you can share your experience. But at that intervening contact, don't make it about you. Open your ears and shut your mouth and just let them unload. As ridiculous as they may sound, and it might even be something trivial, listen. One thing that wasn't up here, though, that normally comes up is they say that they're going to commit suicide. And talk about it. If they talk about it, 99.99% of the times I guarantee they don't have a plan. Y'all agree? You don't agree?
No, I don't agree.
All right, hear me out. They're testing the water to see if anybody cares. If you don't react, that's going to give them the answer they're looking for. That's going to push them to the next stage of building a plan. You agree with that? If somebody talks about it, don't take it for granted. They might just be trying to get attention. But I'll tell you from experience, you don't want to swallow that egg when you find out it wasn't just for attention. What happens whenever somebody close to us or someone we know commits suicide? What's the first thing we think about?
What could I have done to stop it?
Huh?
What could I have done to stop it?
What did we miss? What signs did I miss that I could have intervened and stopped it? Now, can we prevent suicides?
Not all the time.
No. But we can intervene. Now that sounds kind of contradictory, doesn't it? You say we can't prevent suicides, but we can intervene in suicide. If we intervene, we might be able to affect the change of behavior. It's not a guarantee. In my case, like I told you, nobody even knew I had a plan. Nobody knew I had a timestamp on it, nor did they know what that timestamp was on it. Now, let's talk about some of our stigmas in getting help that we've made over here. This stigma is the perception. Leaders are the worst. Because when we become leaders, we have this persona that's built around us, right? We're in the servicing business now, and we're helping our subordinates. And I'm the leader, and I'm invincible. And we don't want people to perceive that we're vulnerable because why? We're the leader. We're the leader. I'm the professional. I'm the SME. And you want to be me. I will tell you there's not a person in this room, nor is there a person outside of this room. I don't care if you're talking about chief staff of the Army all the way down to private that graduated basic training last Friday. Nobody is invincible, and nobody is, now I forgot what I'm trying to think of, immune to mental anguish and mental issues. Nobody is immune. I thought I was. And my boat damn near sank. Jeopardy of losing your job. Well, I kind of blew that one. That messed out of the water. I thought the same thing. That's actually what drove me to the next phase of developing my plan. But guess what? They promoted me to sergeant major. And I deployed again. Career progression. I kind of blew that one out of that mess out of the water too. Even though I still see a psychiatrist now. I'm not out of the water. I've been at this for a few years. One thing I found out is it's not that you get over it. We got to learn to live with it. We got to learn how to, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Cope. We got our coping mechanism. What has happened in our past is part of our life. Unfortunately, we can't go back and turn back time. But even though that I'm seeing psychiatrists, and I take 6 pills at night and 1 in the morning. I have to take 1 in the morning because I don't mix with the 6 at night. And they still made it all the way to the nominal level, back down again with security clearance or sign of weakness. I thought that too. 10 years ago, I would never told you this story. Why?
So a lot of career lessons.
I did not want to see and be seen as weak. I'll share with you guys the hardest thing I've ever done at doing patient treatment. Walking in that door to this day is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Knowing that when I go in that door, I'm not coming out till they're done with me. And they're going to take everything from me when I walk in that door, just like going into jail. The best thing I could have done for myself, till this day, that is the hardest thing I've ever done. Security clearance. I blew that one out of the water too. I had a top secret before. I got a top secret now. In Guess what? It's been renewed twice. So that myth got thrown out. Family constraints and EFMP process. I will tell you, EFMP is a freaking nightmare. I really think the Army needs to revamp that program. My wife is on EFMP for a medication she was taking years ago. She doesn't take the medication anymore. I can't get her off this stupid thing. It's a nightmare. But that would be a reason, I very well can see that as a reason, especially with our families, of not getting them into health. No support. How do we get that support? With each other. And it goes back to what? Having a personal relationship. Treatment timeline. I'm going to share with you guys here towards the end something that I've found very effective for treatment on the budget. Definitely, especially senior leaders, I can see that being a factor for leaders. Deployability. I blew that mess out of the water too. Because after I got out of the intense inpatient treatment, what they do? They sent me to Afghanistan. So I deployed again after that. Work commitment. Oh yeah. Don't want to take time off. Again, leaders is horrible about that. Not just our mental well-being, but just our health in general. We tend to put it off, and I'm guilty too. I got to get busy because when I get up to IMT, I'll time out after that, so I got to get busy between now and then, trying to get myself fixed as best I can. And the burden on the family. A lot of times we don't want to share with our families what's going on up here in Old Nugget, do we? Nobody wants to burden the family. We got to keep adult issues away from the kids, and we also don't want to burden our partners with our troubles. With it. I hate being blind. Let me check real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything on here. I think I got everything on here except for the only one here. So what do we do when we have a very light leader commit suicide or influential leader? I've seen it happen twice. One just recently was in 3 ID. 2 suicides, 3 suicides. NCO committed suicide. Caught everybody by surprise. He was very light, senior NCO, and it had an impact on that organization. Huge impact. The other one was when I was up in Alaska, the Elmendorf commander, the wing commander over in Elmendorf, shot himself in the backyard. 2 story. Everybody on all the airmen down to the airman level on Elmendorf Air Force Base loved that guy. Again, caught everybody by surprise. And it crushed that Air Force wing up there in the Elmendorf Air Force Base. How do we put the organization back together after that? It's a tough one, man. I don't expect an answer for it. But that's a tough one. All right, well, so what do we do now? We've got through, I'm almost done, I promise. What do we do, though? We intervened. Now, what do we do to try to get help? First option is try to get them to do it on their own. That's the best option. They won't do it. Where do you go? Go chain of command?
I think Chapman first already.
Chain support. Yes, you are correct. Or that's my recommendation. I say you're correct, because I told you there's no right or wrong answers in my questions. My recommendation would be the chaplain. If you, I mean, do you need to at least let the chain of command know something's going on? Yeah. If you go straight to the chain of command and let them deal with it, what did you just do? You just burned the trust bridge, didn't you? And very well may drive them to the next stage. But here's the unique thing about the chaplain. And I told you I was going to share with you something unique about it. So, everybody remember Chaplain Durham, right? Chaplain Durham was a really great chaplain, really good chaplain. He was also selected to go to the chaplain school. He's an instructor down at chaplain school right now to train other chaplains. When Chaplain Durham left, there's an underlap between him and Chaplain, don't tell him I forgot. I didn't forget his name. I'm having a TBI moment. Chaplain Sheriff. And what happened when you have somebody good, a good leader or whatever, and they leave in that underlap? What happened in that underlap? You start getting anxious on what are we going to get afterwards, right? Because if you're a mediocre leader and you supersede a really good leader, what does that do? It kind of knocks you a couple of notches down the totem pole. But the other way, though, if you're a mediocre leader, replace a really sorry leader, and that puts you a couple of notches up. So, I'm going to tell you, me personally, I was kind of worried about what we were going to get for our next chapter. And Chaplain Chairborne come on board. I will tell you, 188th is lucky. Because we got two back-to-back really good chaplains with a lot of reach. Whoever replaces Chaplain Chairborne better be good, because now he's got a backfield two good chaplains. But here's some of the reach that he's got. One is the family life chapel. How many know what about the family life chapel? 1, 2, 3. So the family life chaplain is really unique. Not only is he a chaplain, but he's also a trained psychiatrist. He's got access, just like the psychiatrist down in mental health. That story I told you guys earlier about that NCO in our brigade, I called Chaplain Sherborne, said, hey, this is what's going on. I need some recommendation on where to go from here. And he ended up at Chaplain Sherborne and Reed was able to, because of his training, find out some of the root causes underneath the issue that he was having. And was able to set up treatment for that on top of the counseling that he provided with it. And guess what? It does not circle. If you are afraid of this, it doesn't come back. Or if the person that you intervene, it doesn't come back. That's not all that the chaplains have in their kit bag. So recommendation is that should be your first call to reach out to. All right, so we'll wrap this up with what are the 3 takeaways that I want you to take out of this. 1, if you intervene, you own that problem until it's not a problem for that person. The second one is, when you do intervene, listen. Just listen. Now mine just drew a blank, I can't remember my third take.
Relationship building.
Huh?
Relationship building.
No. Who is this old boy in there? Is he still back behind the sound booth? No. Do you remember? No, he just I can't remember the personal relationship. Huh? Oh yeah. Great. Thank you for helping. Yes, the third takeaway is we have to get past the professional relationships. We have to have personal relationships with our peers and our subordinates. We have to. It's the only way that we can get ahead of this. We've got to build those personal relationships with each other. And let me say this real closely in closing. The country right now is in turmoil, civil unrest, right? It's a mess. The uniqueness of our organization is we are a mixture from all walks of life, nationalities, you take your pick, from around the world. And we can sit down next to each other, break bread, share food, and share water, share life, without batting an eye. Part of that is that personal relationship building. Unfortunately, there are some people in our organization, though, I'm not talking about just a brigade, in our institution. We do have people that haven't got to that point yet. Y'all agree? Unfortunately. And it is very unfortunate. But the uniqueness of us is we can embrace diversity. We can come together, more of a family. But we can build those personal relationships with each other that will be able to help us out, or help each other when we have those trials and tribulations. All right, anybody got anything they want to add? I know it's late, y'all ready to go. All right, hey, I appreciate you guys staying. I know it sucked for you guys. You were the last of the day. That's always the worst ones to do. But thank you so much, though, for listening. And the reason I do this is, when I've given this presentation hundreds of times, on this 3 hours, I try to condense it down. Actually, I think we went a little long. I forgot to look at the clock. I apologize. But the reason I do this, though, is if I can share my story and provide a message, and one person that I can talk off the ledge is worth all the hours I spent airing my laundry out for everybody to see. So I appreciate it. Thank you much.